and why MLFlow is used for it. But before we even get started, I have a question. Do you know what MLFlow is? Just raise a hand. I see one hand there. Pedro, but I'll ignore him. 2 hands, 3 hands. Is there anyone who would like to tell me what MLFlow is? Just quickly, with your own words. Go for it. You raised your hand first. What is MLFlow?
So what I think MLFlow is all about is like the stages that are involved in like building a machine learning solution, starting from getting the data to like getting it to the end users.
You're right. And why MLFlow is great? Well, it's because it helps data scientists and also machine learning engineers, but I'll focus on data scientists. And the main reason for that is that actually Nigeria with Ghana together have one of the biggest population of young data scientists from the world, which is very impressive. I planned it as a hands-on workshop where we all play with MLFlow, which it might be a bit difficult, but I will be walking all of you through the steps, and I'll give you the right places where you can ask your questions and provide your feedback. But before we get started, I'll actually introduce myself. I'm Andreea. I'm originally from Romania, and when I started on data science 7-8 years ago, there was no MLFlow. There was not even Jupyter notebooks widely used. I started with MATLAB, and I hated it. It was not open source. I had to pay a license, or I struggled with the license. And also, it was not so widely adopted. There were no libraries out of the box. There was nothing almost out there. But I said, oh, it's cool. I studied engineering, and I said, I don't want to be an engineer. So I moved towards data science. And around the same time, that's the announcement that made the news. Data science is the sexiest job in the world, or of this century. Is it true or not? I don't know. Do you think that? No, I see here a lot of no's. There was a yes as well. I don't know if it's sexy or not, but it's indeed a challenging job. It's something that allows you to be creative and at the same time to write code. But what is MLFlow? Well, MLFlow is an open source project, and I think that's why we talk about it here. You can use it for free. You can contribute to it for free, and it's quite nice. It became famous because of its capabilities to do experiment tracking. And for those who maybe are not familiar, when it comes to data science, to machine learning engineer, you don't write your code once, and that's it. You do it more than once. You experiment a lot. You get frustrated. You leave your laptop, of course. Then you come back to it, and you want to see, well, what's the best one of my models? Which one should I choose for my project? And that's when the experiment tracking comes in place, and it brings a lot of value. And that's how it got started a couple of years ago. Over time, they wanted to develop it into a project that covers the entire machine learning lifecycle, end to end. And that's how a couple of new components were added. These days, you have an artifact storage where you can see all the models that you had developed. You can see all your code. It's connected to GitHub as well, which is quite nice. And last but not least, you have the registry part where you can manage all your work. Most importantly, it doesn't oblige you to use PyCharm or VS Code or Jupyter notebooks. You can use whatever you want, and it will still work. And it's very important because I think there were other trials of tools in the past, but they were obliging you to stick to one IDE. But people like different things, and I think that's fine. And then what is charmed MLFlow? I didn't mention when I introduced myself. That's terrible. But I come from Canonical, and it's the publisher behind Ubuntu. There's a bit of orange, and I have a lot of pink on me, which can be aubergine. And in Canonical, except for Ubuntu, which everyone I hope knows by now, and if not, Pedro will be mad, we also have a lot of open source tools that we are developing and we are packaging. Charmed MLFlow is one of them. And why it's called Charm, you can see in our talk in about 2 hours in the other room. But Charmed MLFlow is our own distribution of MLFlow. Exactly like the upstream project. It is open source. It has a great team of behind it. My team of engineers, they work hard. They help everyone. They answer questions. So if you combine Canonical's distribution, where we do security patching, for example, we manage upgrades, we do updates, and the upstream project, you get to charmed MLFlow. And at the moment, we are running a beta campaign where we are asking people for feedback. You can deploy it on your own machine, if you use Ubuntu, of course, and give us your feedback or ask your questions, but we'll get there. So what do you think? Do we really need MLFlow for data science? I don't hear anything. I want an answer. Are you sure? Why do we need MLFlow for data science? Who would like to share with me? There.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, so from my experience, a very important use case of MLFlow in data science is with experiments, with the model registry. So over time, as a machine learning engineer, you are running different experiments. Let's say you're in a competition like Zindi or so. You're running different experiments and trying to come up with the best model. And you end up with different models and different codes. At the end of the day, you're trying to link the codes back to the models and everything, and you don't know which of the model is even the best performing model. So that's one very important use case I see for MLFlow. It helps us keep track of our models, which one is better than which, and also stores them where we can easily serve them to the users.
I think you're right. Is anyone else who would like to add something on why do we need MLFlow for data scientists? Okay. Well, I think you captured it correctly. And it's very important to mention that also, when it comes to data science, you don't train once, you get a model, and you never look at it back. Especially when it comes to production, you always have to bear in mind that you will end up going back to your model. You do it once, you're happy with the results, but because data changes quite quickly, you have to retrain again, to do the entire process again, and that's where MLFlow also helps you, because it gives you visibility of what has been in the past and how it's changed over time, because it's just a new experiment. So, first of all, I think what got traction actually to MLFlow is that it's easy to use. We have in our portfolio another product called Kubeflow, and using it, it's a bit more complicated. It has too many features if you just get started. But MLFlow was really designed for young people, for those who just get started, and you use it you deploy it, and it's very intuitive. But then, as I already mentioned, it allows you to use any platform you want, and also any framework. If you like TensorFlow, go with TensorFlow. But if you like PyTorch, go with PyTorch. There is no reason for us to debate or to fight which one is better, even if I like those debates. I mean, we can do it. But the idea is that actually MLFlow itself doesn't have a strong opinion, which is great for us. It can let you store your models, which is related to the artifact storage, but also it relates a lot with reproducibility. And if you wonder why that is important, imagine that there are two people here who work on the same project. You don't want to duplicate your work, because anyway it takes a long time to figure it out. So if you use a tool like MLFlow, in the end, you will be able to see what your colleague did and build up from there, rather than take it from scratch. And if you're wondering what was the plan of today, and I'll do it. You can maybe help me. Well, first of all, we will deploy charmed MLFlow, because I want you to be charmed by it. Then we will get to Jupyter Lab. That's my preference. Of course, it doesn't need to be everyone's choice. Then we have some examples in Canonical. Our team built an entire repository of examples that data scientists can experiment with. So we are going to use that. And we are going to run a bit of a training and look at the MLFlow UI. What is this? How does it look like? And maybe get questions from you. last but not least, we look at the results and we plan what's next. What else could we do? Because I think whereas tools are nice and important, the most important part of data science is to find the problems that you care about. I was a couple of months ago in Namibia, and we were discussing on what data science projects would help your community. And it was quite fun because we said, oh, we have communities in other parts of the world who worked with the public authorities to analyze the data, to do some forecasting, to do some predictions, and that's something that helps. That could help that community. And we can think of what are the problems that could be solved with data science in Lagos. I don't know much about it, except for the great food that I've heard about already. But maybe we can find some projects. First of all, are you an Ubuntu user? Surgeries. We have, okay, we do have some Ubuntu users. Okay, well, we do have a guide available for, let's see, okay, yes. So for those who use Ubuntu, we have an easy how-to guide on how to install Charmed MLFlow. It has 4 steps. We are using microcates as a container layer. We are using Juju, that we are going to talk about in about 2 hours in our talk. And then we get to the MLFlow bundle. And now, let me see. Nope, not this one. Oh, a second. Good enough? Cool. Sorry. One sec, let me set the folder, Cool. Is there anyone who would like to be an adventurer and try to deploy Charmed MLFlow with me? No, someone can try to use my laptop, actually. Would you like it? Who would like? Okay, there's a volunteer there. She was the first one. Why don't you come here? And we can make it step by step. So you can try deploying microcates, the very first part, and then someone else could try to help you further. So here's your terminal. And then here, yes, I'll open for you here the guide itself. So let's see, how do we help everyone else on the screen see it as well? Okay, so there it is. The very first step when deploying Charmed MLFlow is to deploy microcates, which is simple. Our colleagues from the Kubernetes team made it simple. It's just a command line. Let's go. Where's my? There we are. We are in the terminal here. And probably we should try to copy the command, sudo snap install microcates, and run it in the terminal. I think the easiest way is like this. And your pointer is here. It's on the other screen, which makes it a bit difficult. If you click on it, yeah, I think you can write. Can you try typing sudo? Sorry. I have my mouse. Or I do. Why is it not working? The person who hotspotted me, is it still in the room? No. No, I think the problem is that I don't have internet anymore. No worries. Which one is yours? This one? Up. Okay, if let's see. And then let me see. No. Okay, yes, no, it's working. It's very funny because this is how it is at your job as well as a software engineer. It's exactly like this. Don't imagine it's a mistake. It's similar. And let's. Can I make it that? You can copy the. Okay, we are back on track, I hope. We got back the internet connection, luckily, so we can deploy microcates in the first place. It's one command, which is nice and easy. So, there we are. I think we should type sudo snap install. Nope. There we are. No, I lost internet again. Oh no, it's just delayed. Okay. Okay, then maybe I'll give up on trying to deploy microcates here and charm the MLFlow. So I'll walk you through the guide like this, and we can do it after maybe. Ideally, yes, sorry. Yes. It's okay. Yes. So, how do we get to charmed MLFlow UI? I think we have 3 steps, and usually it takes me like 10 minutes. And it's worth mentioning that I'm not coding anymore, so I'm not really good with that. But firstly, you install microcates. It's 1 command line, and it's quite quickly. Then you do a couple of configurations such that you can use the group in the way that you want. And then, let's see. You enable, so you do all the configurations for microcates, and then you wait for it to be ready. In case you have struggles with your internet connection, in Romania sometimes I have the same problems. I do wait for a bit until it's ready. And then we move to Juju, that does all the magic, I'll say. It connects all the packages together, which we call charms these days. I'm not sure if I said the right definition. And again, it's 1 command. You do sudo snap install Juju. And if you don't know what snaps are, Sergio can tell you right after me, I think, in the next workshop. And in the other room, apparently. And once you deploy Juju, you bootstrap microcates, which is quite easy. You add a model. Here we call it Kubeflow, but it's worth mentioning that you can update it with any name you want. And then you access MLFlow. No, sorry, initially you deploy MLFlow. That's terrible. You deploy MLFlow. It's another command that you have to run. And then you're able to access MLFlow. Basically, in, I think, 10 commands, you're able to access the UI. And it takes me 10 minutes, 15. Oh no, that's terrible. So the problem is not how long it takes you, because you can experiment 1 by 1, and you can just run in a Jupyter notebook every experiment separately. But the problem is when you want to analyze your results, that you need to look at them 1 by 1 by 1. I remember when I started doing data science, we used to take the results and copy them in a spreadsheet. And we all know what happens with Excel files that are doomed to fail and you need to use for analyzing anything. But since we are not able to do it live, I have a question. What use cases do you imagine for data scientists here in Lagos? Yeah, an application that could benefit from data science. Health cases. Okay, do you want to tell me more details? Okay. It looks like you know what you're talking about.
No. So we have a data problem in Nigeria, a very bad data problem. We can use data science to track health records. So basically, we know malaria is a problem in Nigeria. So we could, from the general hospitals, we could get records from people and predict how fast they can get malaria, the causes, and how the chances of how they get malaria, and how it can be easily remedied, because there's a lot of self-help with malaria. So instead of doing that, we have data to do it, then it becomes easier for the pharmacists and the doctors.
Okay, thank you. So I have a challenge for everyone here. We have a business problem that she just raised that data science could fix. What data could we use? What kind of data sources we could use for this problem? And it's a workshop that I used to run in the past, but we can adapt, right? So what data sources we can use? She said some of them, and they're...
I think mostly secondary data for what she's talking about. Are you serious? Because these hospitals, they have...
Can you talk to the microphone so everyone can hear you?
Sorry, I think we would be able to use secondary data to solve this problem, but I mean, some people said primary, but I think secondary. I think secondary because these hospitals, they already have the data, but it's mostly on paper, but if it's not anymore.
Okay, so...
Not for all hospitals though, but some general hospitals still use paper to solve their information. And they have the most data, hypothetically. So.
You're raising a very good problem, and it's still happening. Often data is on paper.
Yeah.
So first of all, we need to digitalize the data if it's on paper. But what kind of data? Is it data about the weather outside? Do we care about that data?
No,
So
it's
what
not public.
He has some thoughts as well.
No, like I think I just want to add to what she said that most of these data are collected for not for this kind of purpose. Do you get? Some of them are just collecting it randomly. Like you just go to the hospital, even if you check your BMI or something, people did not know like the implications of like their BMI on their health. Do you understand? So like they're just collecting this data without knowing like what to do with it.
Okay.
So probably we might even want to start from like gathering this data, like getting it, then providing a solution. Because if people did not see what that thing will do for them in Nigeria, I'm not sure they want to buy into the idea of let's collect this data. I don't even understand what I'm saying.
Yes. So the very first step in the machine learning lifecycle is gather data. But what data sources do you take into account? There is one idea there. Yes.
Okay, I want to answer the question of what kind of data to gather first, right?
I know, hospital data.
Yeah, hospital data. And
an
it is
example.
also, I feel it's also necessary to get data about the weather because we know mosquitoes stay in like kind of mushy areas. So if you're checking, okay, is this place, is it going to rain here? Stuff like that. And you also should consider, information about when last they treated malaria, how severe their case was, all those kind of stuff. So it is important to get account.
So we have a couple of data sets here. On one hand, we have hospital data. Apparently weather data is good as well. I didn't know about it. I think we need data about the patients because
they are medical
they are
history.
the ones. Do we have any other data points, ideas? Location data? Age? What about that side? What? Genotype? Okay. What else? What else? Any other data sources, data sets? On this side, do we have data thoughts? Okay, he says that they said it all. What about population data? You also, when it comes to data science, you always have to think of two types of data sets. One of them that are dynamic data related to your use case, but also static data, population. What else? Blood data as well, yeah. I think we have a healthcare expert there. I'll have to say that. Okay, we have all the data. What do we do with it, actually? What's the next step? We have a lot of data that it's very likely a bit messy and not really ready to be worked on. What's the next step? Clean the data. Everyone agrees with me. Do you have some cleaning data activities as examples? Okay, let's stay organized, and since this side has been quiet, would you like to, okay? There you go. You have a mic for you.
You check for duplicates and missing values.
Yes, you check for duplicates. What else? Clustering as well. What else? Okay. Also, what about the fact that you have a lot of data that might not be useful? When it comes to, you have patient data, but except for malaria, they have, I don't know, they broke a leg, and it's also in their records. Do you really care about their broken leg and their broken hand? Okay, so you extract just the features, that's how we call them, that you care about. What's the next step in the machine learning lifecycle? Maybe I can actually open the proper slide for that. Once you have the data clean and ready, what do you do with it? You analyze the data. Explore the data. Would you like to tell me how do you explore the data for those who has the mic? Let's see. Where's the second mic? I think there is one gentleman there, very motivated.
All right, so first thing I like to do is plot my box plot so that I can understand the level of outliers inside of data sets. After detecting the amount of data outliers in data sets, you can now move into plotting like you can categorize data, so you group them and then check like which has like a positive correlation or negative correlation to other
Yes.
stuff. And yeah, basically.
You look for correlations. What kind of algorithms do you use here? What kind of algorithms are you used to? No?
You mean
You
like
said already.
Spearman correlation and stuff like that?
Sorry?
Do you mean the types of correlation like Spearman and the rest? Like,
Look at you. I think we have a data scientist there. Once you finish analyzing the data, what's your next step? Because now we are getting close to MLFlow, actually. Until now, we just played on other tools.
So I think they skipped a step for analyzing the data. You're supposed to check if your data is skewed to one side. So the process of normalization comes. So that is a process that should be involved. So after analyzing data, after pre-processing it and viewing it, I think the next step that I do will come in splitting the data set and dividing into train.
Why do you use this?
Yeah, you have to do encoding if you have categorical data after checking your data type, which I think you do during the analyzing and pre-processing of your data. So after like ensuring that the data set is like the formats, like everything is like numerical, you have encoded your categorical data, you have normalized it, you have done all those steps, then you do your data splitting. So yeah.
Yes. And then you also said something very important. You split your data set. You don't use all your data set for training.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you're doomed to fail once again. And by now, you're doomed to fail a lot of times when it comes to data science, but that's the beauty. So how do you split your data?
Yeah, I use 60, 20, 20. So 60 for train, 20 for validation, then 20 for tests.
Yes.
Most times, yeah.
That's variable, but yes. And there is one thought there as well.
Yeah, so like about splitting that data, that percentage is like correct, but I think it varies depending on the amount of data sets you have. For example, if you have like 10 million data sets and you use 60, 20, 20, that one, like the 20% is not like the best. So you can use, let's say, 99, 0.5, 0.5, depending on the size of the data. So it should not like be fixed. Do you get?
There we are. I found a slide that I could have used, but it doesn't load. Anyway, we can start training by now, right? And bear in mind that you have a very specific use case. How do you start training? Do you use one algorithms? Do you try more algorithms? What are your thoughts on this front?
Try plenty algorithm.
You say various algorithms, and there is one. So there was a raised hand there.
It kind of depends on your data set, right? Or what you're trying to achieve. If it's a logistic regression kind of task, then you usually start with logistic regression algorithms. If it is regression, you start with regression. But like these days, I like to start training like a default neural network. Then I'll try to check on the dev set and see how it's performing before I can now know what I'm doing next. So yeah.
Okay, you're right. Any other thoughts? Any other examples? He talked about regressors. There any other? There?
I think I didn't really get what the use case, but I think we're supposed to choose our algorithm based on the task we want to do, if it's a classification task or a regression task. So I don't know what we're trying to predict. Is it if like they will have malaria or not, or the rate of the probability? Okay, so I think that should be like a regression task, and you can maybe start with logistic regression or something since it's probability.
Yes. And what do you do? I have a question for you, and then I can tell you my experience as well. When you got started, how did you figure it out what algorithms you should use? Because that's I remember I was doing my thesis on machine learning, and I was like, what do I use now? How do I know about it? What's your trick here for those who maybe are not so experienced? Okay, there is one here.
Okay, for regression, it has to be with a yes or a no. Why for this thing? Sorry, for classification is a yes or a no. Why for regression it deals with mostly numbers. That's how I actually know.
Okay. Yes. It's also worth mentioning that you can do machine learning with images and videos and a bunch of other fancy things, computer vision, for example. And I saw the hand raised there as well.
So normally, like when I want to like work on your project, I did something similar, but mine was like stroke status predictor. So like what I used to do is most times people used to jump to like neural networks, but like start with like let's say logistic regression, something very very basic. That might be where your solution is. So when you go from that one, I will now be checking the metrics. So based on what are you trying to optimize for, like what's like your metrics? Am I optimizing for this or this, right? So I must, if it's a classification problem, I can use confusion matrix or this accuracy and precision score to like okay, this is okay. So after the simple model, then I try like let's say decision tree, then XGBoost, then I can now like proceed like that. But I won't go to like the let's say neural network before like trying logistic regression first. So the one that now performs best based on what I want to optimize for, I'll just
Very good. And I have a tricky question. How is MLFlow fitting at this stage of the machine learning life cycle? There's a hand there.
So
You're an MLFlow fan, I can tell.
At this stage of the like machine learning model lifecycle, I think this is where experiment tracking comes into place. So this is the point where you want to be recording like the evaluation score of your particular model. So when you try a logistic regression model, you want to calculate the score and log it to the server. When you try a KNN or something like that, log it to. So at the end of the day, when you are done with all the experimentations, you can see the scores in a tabular format and know which one is the best.
Basically, I'm not sure. I see we have a lot of data scientists, but also maybe we don't have some. Scores are just metrics that you care about, the performance metrics that you choose. And they are different depending on the algorithm that you chose using, as well as the use case. After that, we move to validation. And for that, what do we use? Someone there said it. We have a data set. You say there without a mic. So we validate based on the data set, and then we test based on the data set. And you're happy with your model. What does it happen with it? Do you let it get old, or? I see you have a mic. He has opinions there. We only have 5 minutes. That's why I've been rushing.
So when you are done with your model, you ideally want to like say push it to probably the model registry or something like that. Then once in a while you retrain, you check for like data drift or model drift or something like that. Then you train based on those like. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. And we only have 5 minutes left, and I think we are close to a wrap up. We didn't manage to deploy Charmed MLFlow together, but the beauty of Canonical, and I think of open source in general, is that you can deploy it by yourself on your own machines, especially those who use Ubuntu. And we have a thread where myself, the team that developed Charmed MLFlow as well, is tracking it daily. We are answering questions, and we are happy to actually get questions. I remember with the other tool that we have in our portfolio, Kubeflow, we started running betas a year ago, and there was no one asking us questions. And then we found one person, and he was the first one who started asking us a lot of questions. Nowadays, we have an entire community of Charmed Kubeflow users that provide us feedback, ask questions, tell us when we do wrong things, because sometimes we have bugs, and we are happy when someone else just finds them. What I would like to invite you, and what the purpose of this workshop was, actually was to invite you to try out Charmed MLFlow. I'll be here today and tomorrow as well, if you want to ask me anything or if you want to know more about it. And especially if you don't have experience with MLFlow, you can try Charmed MLFlow, and you can easily benefit from a nice crew of people who are going to give you a helping hand. Also, we have examples, like it's code that's already written with all the explanations on how you can do it. We advise with using Jupyter notebooks, because that's what I like. I'm responsible for that. But if you prefer any other tool instead of it, it can easily be replicated. And I think, do you have questions for me, actually? There is one question here.
So I use a Windows laptop. How am I going to use MLFlow without Ubuntu?
Well, there are two options that I can recommend you. On one hand, you can install WSL and deploy MLFlow using WSL. Both of them are for free, so it's easy. The other option is to go on AWS, start the smallest available instance, which is for free, And then using that, start the instance using Ubuntu, and then you basically have an Ubuntu machine, but from the terminal. Any other question?
Yeah, sorry, I have a question. Do you have, any MLFlow community that you would recommend to further develop your skills in this path?
So there are a couple of things that I can recommend, of course. On one hand, there is the upstream MLFlow community. It has a Slack channel of about 5,000 people, and it's quite active. MLFlow, if you go on Slack and you look, if you look for MLFlow.org, I think, they're going to redirect you. And then if you look for Charmed MLFlow beta on Google, you're going to find our discourse post where it's myself who says, hey, why don't you try it out? And you tell me you ask your questions, and we are building from there. Periodically with the team, we run webinars, workshops like this, but online, where we do different things. Yes. Yesterday, no, 2 days ago, I had a kubeflow versus MLFlow webinar, which was quite an interesting debate because these are the two biggest open source ML tools out there that data scientists can use. So which one should you use? You can check in the webinar. It's 1 minute left, so one last question, if there is any. There is one there.
Yeah, please, is there anything like documentation for MX?
Yes. So the link that, what I was sharing is documentation, and we have plenty of it. And also, because we answer questions based on the questions that we get asked, we document even more. Furthermore, we have a Medium publication where we add just fun projects or things that we are working on that we find interesting, or projects that you are working on and we find interesting as well. We have a couple of those as well, because I'm a strong believer that we should support those who are having fun with data. Any other question before they kick me out? Nope. Okay, I think that was me. I'll say I'm a data scientist, but I don't code that much anymore. However, I'm in love with data. That's how I got into it. And if you have questions about data science, machine learning, MLFlow, kubeflow, or how to use open source for these activities, I'll be around. And at least today I'm pink, so it's easy to find me. And we have a talk. Yes, Pedro is telling me from there. He has a very fun... Oh, we are hiring as well. Okay, so we have a talk in 2 hours. And then we are hiring in Canonical. We are looking for talent. We already have quite a big community of Nigerians. There are 10 of you who are working in Canonical. And it's worth mentioning, we only have 5 Romanians. And that was the first one 3 years ago. There was no one. So if you want, go on canonical.com/careers and give it a shot. I'll say that it's a very beautiful place to work in. After 3 years, I'm still in love with it. So. Thank you.